Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to take a few minutes to go over this lovely deck. It was first printed in 1990. This is the Tarot of the Old Path. I recently picked this up. I believe it's still available, still pretty widely available, inexpensive. What is not readily available is this full-size guidebook. The deck does come with a little white book, but the little white book does not have much information, and if you really want to understand the symbolism in the deck, you need to have the big book. So you would have to go on eBay or someplace to find the big book. Unfortunately, it's now out of print. This book contains information on the authors who collaborated on this deck. It's a pagan deck, and there were 8 Wiccan consultants: Margot Adler, Lois Byrne, Patricia Crowther, Janet and Stuart Farrar. A lot of these people have since passed away. Aislinn Lester, Pauline Newberry, Kim Tracy. And then there's a dedication of one of the cards. There's a blessing ritual, like a ritual that you would use before reading the cards. And there's also the basic elements of the Kabbalah Tree of Life here, just for information if you like to reference it. Then there are information on the Major Arcana cards. There's a description of the card. This is what you do not get in the little white book. And the representation. I don't believe you get this in the book, the little white book either, but you do get the divinatory meanings and reverse meanings in the little white book. After they kind of go through the Major Arcana, there's a quick reference guide with correspondences. Then they have a little bit of information on each card in the Minor Arcana, description and meaning. And there's not a lot of symbolism in the minor cards, so we won't have to spend a lot of time going over that. After they go through the minor cards, we have card spreads and interpretations. They've got 3 spreads: Celtic Cross, Witch's Circle Astrology spread, and Howard's 6-card spread. It's Howard Rodway who's the author of this book. The person who created the deck. Howard Rodway is the creator, and the art and a lot of the ideas were from Sylvia Gainsford. So those are the 2 creators of the deck. Tarot of the Old Path, created by artist Sylvia Gainsford and author Howard Rodway, with the help of 8 witches and representatives of the traditional Wicca path. And then this deck is from AGM, A.G. Mueller, made in Belgium. A little bit of information on these 3 spreads that they mentioned. There's a bibliography, so a lot of reference material here. References on tarot books. Of course, these are from 1990 or earlier, so nothing real recent here. And there is a lot of botanical imagery in here, so they do recommend the language of flowers. Apparently there is a catalog in the UK. I don't know if this is still available, but John Chambers Wildflower Seeds, and apparently the catalog contains a lot of information on herbs and flowers. A little bit of information about the author, Howard Rodway. Okay, so that's the book. Very nice book. I've spent some time going through it. It's very informative. We've got our tuck box. Here is the little white book, a handbook of female wisdom. So it's definitely centered on goddess imagery and the goddess path. So 1990, apparently reprinted in 2012. A little introduction on tarot. About the artist. I don't think that was in the big book now that I think of it. So that's kind of nice that this is in the little white book. And there you can see the meanings are very, just very basic in the little white book. Just a little just a sentence or two on the meaning, not even keywords. They go through the spreads in the little white book. Okay, so let's take a look at the cards. Now, being that this is a pagan-centered deck, they do rename some of the cards out of the Christian imagery, and they change them to a more pagan-centered imagery. And I'm going to zoom in a little closer so you can get a better look. These cards are very detailed. The cardstock is very nice. It's sort of playing card in quality. It's kind of plasticized and semi-matte, I would say. It's very sturdy, but yet easy to shuffle, easy to hold in the hand. I mean, I have fairly small hands. I can easily shuffle this deck, but I'm not going to shuffle it right now. I don't want to get it out of order. But they do rename some of the cards in this deck. They rename Chariot to Mastery, although the picture is the same. It still pictures a chariot. They rename Hermit to the Wise One. The Hanged Man becomes the Lone Man. Death becomes the Close. Temperance becomes the Guide, although they do still have a temperance image in that card. The Devil becomes Temptation. Moon becomes Illusion. Judgment becomes Karma. So in general, I like these cards. As you can see, they are full of a lot of details. And sometimes when you have a lot of details, it's hard to lose it's easy to lose, I should say, the big picture of what the card represents. So we've got a lot of activity going on in this card. We've got the mother going after the child who's about to burn himself. We've got the Fool starting off on his journey. And I'm going to just include a little bit of information for the Major Arcana that came out of the big book that's not in the small book, in case you get this deck and would like to know. The red bundle symbolizes knowledge from another life, the red bundle that the Fool has there. The goldenrod plant warns in the language of flowers that care must be taken. The partridge symbolizes an ability to deceive in order to protect. And then there's a butterfly just emerging from its chrysalis and waiting for its wings to dry before making the first flight. All right, now we have the magician, and here we have a shaman type of magician casting runes. The elements are included here. We have a torch symbolizing fire, a cup symbolizing water, the stone to symbolize earth, and let's see, he's holding the sword in his hand there. The wolf is pictured here. Wolf is also a transformer by myth. And in the background we have a unicorn, a flash of lightning, a stone circle. So again, a real busy card, a lot going on there. But the basic meaning of creativity, bringing something into existence, making magic, it's there. Here we have the High Priestess. It's a little different from most of your traditional tarot card High Priestesses. She's got a lot of nature elements on this card. The necklace is lapis lazuli, and that's supposed to represent clairvoyance. Her headdress is the full moon. The deer is sacred to the goddess Diana. The snake is the keeper of secrets, symbolizing purity of mind and purpose. The crescent moons are facing each other. And let's see, that is to stand for positive and negative forces. Or pine flowers are growing in the foreground. This is an herb associated with the moon. Above the plant is a 6-point burnet moth. In the bottom corner is a cobweb to represent Ariadne, the caster and weaver of spells, and there's a flowing river seen in the Empress card. So very pretty, just very busy, like most of the cards in this Major Arcana of this deck. Here we have the Empress, and this is pretty typical of the Empress as seen in the Rider-Waite style decks. We have a mother-like figure there, the symbol of Venus around her neck. The hair at her side is the goddess symbol. The lamb portrays purity and innocence. The doves symbolize the soul. The stag is linked with the tree of life due to his antlers. The forest symbolizes the Great Mother. The ripening corn is the life cycle of the harvest. The mistletoe, which is beneath her foot, symbolizes regeneration and restoration of family life. She has a pomegranate, standing for the oneness of the universe and fecundity. The cherries nearby are associated with Venus, and the pine beauty is seen at the base of the card, which is a symbol of the soul. I'm not sure which is the pine beauty. I think it might be these little flowers. So pretty card, very busy. Very nice depiction of the Empress, the mother in nature. I rather like this Emperor card. Pretty typical depiction of the Emperor. Here he's shown as a father figure. We've got the children and the home in the background. The home is his castle. On his shoulder is a sparrow hawk, which has life-giving powers associated with the sun. On the back of the throne we have an eagle, which is traditionally thought to be able to look directly at the sun. The crux ansata, the ancient symbol of life. I believe that's maybe this. The ram stands by the throne. The peach that he's holding in his hand symbolizes the unequaled qualities of character. The irises in the foreground symbolize hope, power, and eloquence. Very nice Emperor card. Very colorful. Now we have the High Priest. He's sitting on a throne with a translucent screen. Represents a view of what lies beyond. His right hand is raised in the benediction sign. In his left hand he holds a sprig of vervain, which is a protective herb. On his throne is the head of a bull, the sign of Taurus, and also present is the head of an elephant, symbolizing strength, wisdom, moderation, pity, and eternity. Then we have an eagle in the foreground, a bird of spiritual principle, and the spirit of the sun. The pine tree in the back symbolizes immortality. So there we have the High Priest in this deck. Here's the Lovers. We have the two figures with the angel, pretty basically in most all lover cards that you see. The tree is the tree of life, which bears 7 fruits. A dove representing the soul flies above. See the dove there? The lovers hold a white lily that signifies sweet innocence. The garland of flowers on the woman's head symbols their love. Forget-me-nots and orange blossoms, and the forget-me-nots are a symbol of true love, and orange blossoms represent purity. Bluebells on the grass around them bear a message of constancy. Now here is one of my all-time favorite Chariot cards. In this deck it's been renamed to Mastery. But isn't that just simply spectacular? We've got the 4 different horses representing the 4 elements. It's just beautiful. We've got water, earth, air, and fire. Water is the pale Arab with long watery tresses. Air has a windswept mane and an adornment of stars and a crescent moon within the shape of a pale full moon. Earth has a long mane plated with wheat. a pentagram on its forehead, and it is covered in flowers. One ear is turned toward the voice of its master. Fire breathes flames from its nostrils and the mouth, and its mane is aflame. The charioteer wears a cloak that signifies dignity. Cancer influences this card, and the crab of Cancer is seen on the breastplate. The pentagram symbolizes spiritual evolution, which is on his crown. It's very difficult to see, but it's there. And in his right hand he holds a hazel wand, which is traditional for more than one of the old religions. Very pretty. One of my all-time favorite chariot cards, and it's not even called Chariot. There you go. There you can see the pentacle a little more easily. Okay, and then next we have Strength in the tradition of Rider-Waite at number 8. She's got the infinity lemniscate over her head. We have the traditional lion, and Leo is the astrological influence of the card. The woman has red hair to portray the energy of fire. She carries the caduceus, symbolizing the interchange of polarities at the levels, physical, etheric, astral, mental, and spiritual. Symbolizing an assured victory is a palm tree, which stands in the background. The mountain in the distance indicates thoughts on a higher plane, and the sun as a source of life. Instead of the hermit, we have the wise one, which just appears to be the same as the hermit, only just renamed. An elderly man to symbolize wisdom, carrying the book of knowledge. He has a lantern, which expresses intuitive knowledge. The rabbit is a symbol of one inexperienced in life and wishing to learn. The anchor emblem worn at his neck stands for hope and salvation that he will give to those seeking his guidance. He raises his cloak with his right hand, and that signifies a veil between the self and the world. Beneath the cloak are the 4 elements of earth, air, fire, and water. There is clover. Let's see, the clover is kind of scattered in here, symbolizing divine knowledge gained by hard endeavor. Materializing from the earth is a stream that divides into 10 for the 10 planets, the moon, the sun, and the other planets. So a lot going on in this card. Very pretty. Love the colors. Here's another busy card, Wheel of Fortune. We've got this, I believe you call it an Ouroboros, the snake encircling, eating its own tail. The upper half represents sun, light, planting, growing, and harvest, with the castle representing material wealth. And then the lower half of the wheel shows the opposing region of darkness, night, and death. The Earth Mother holds 2 sprigs of corn, symbolizing fertility. She protects an animal's skull in her right hand, which demonstrates the inevitable mortality of all living things. The owl is a bird of the night, which expresses the vigilance of the Earth Mother. A fish swims in the water, completing the representation of all animal life on Earth. There is a peasant looking pleadingly towards the wealthy king, who attempts to maintain his position by holding the edge of the wheel, but the jester is sort of controlling it down here. So again, another fairly busy Wheel of Fortune there. Here we have Justice. Rocks signifying permanence in the background, permanence, solidity, and integrity. He's an old man to symbolize wisdom. The scales of justice are being held in his left hand. In his right hand he holds the runic T, representing a column supporting heaven. Hewn into the rocks is a flight of steps leading to paradise, and a crane, as the guardian of the head of these steps, stands with wings outstretched, a symbol of justice and a good, diligent soul. In the foreground there's coltsfoot, bearing a message in flower language that justice shall be done. The ferns on the rock symbolize sincerity. The key hanging from the man's waist gives him the means to carry out his task. And the crane is often used in runic symbolism. Here we have the lone man, a substitution for the hanged man, but a similar image is depicted here. The jester is a symbolic inversion of the king image and is associated with being the sacrificial victim. So he's suggesting self-sacrifice. He's rejected the material world, represented by the coins that are falling out, unheeded toward the yellow lilies below, and the yellow lily blooms stand for falsehood. Water lilies, I think. The colors of the costume represent all four elements. The moth in the foreground represents the soul of this man. The far mountain represents lofty thoughts, and the distant stag symbolizes solitude, purity, and elevation. The crow on the tree branch manifests the beginning of spiritual strength. In Native American culture, the crow symbolizes the creator, and it stands for the civilizing influence of the visible world. The spider, I see the spider web here, both builds and destroys in order to maintain balance in the universe. Traditionally, and this is a new insight for me because I had never viewed this card this way, but traditionally, this is a card of the gift of prophecy and clairvoyance. So isn't that cool? So normally I don't really care much for the Hanged Man, but I kind of like this card. And now that I've got that new association with clairvoyance and prophecy, I like it a little better. Here we have, instead of death, we have the close. So we have a death figure here. We have a baby, signifying, of course, new birth. We have the barn owl, and according to Egyptian mythology, it is a creature of the night and death. And standing in the river is the heron, a bird that represents mourning and the generation of life. So between those two birds, you've got the representation of life and death. The misty fir trees in the background are the mystery of the unconscious mind. Near the baby are primroses, symbol of early youth, and the borage in the foreground warns of a change to come, which is the main message of this card. The moth represents the soul on its journey through life and death. So very cool. Nice death card. Here we have, instead of temperance, we have the guide, although we do have a temperance-like figure here that's pouring the water from one cup to the other. So we have a man gaining strength as he carries an exhausted woman through the waters. And that's the guide, apparently. The guide stands with one foot on earth and one foot in the water, linking the physical and spiritual worlds. So we have ivy twining around the border, symbolizing friendship. Lily of the valley is growing in the waterfall, which in the language of flowers promises the return of happiness. Thrift symbolizes sympathy. I don't know which plant is thrift. Possibly this. And on the water, a petunia floats with the message, "Your presence soothe me." Here we have the goddess and the god in the background. Again, a lot going on in this card. Very busy. Sometimes it's harder to read with cards that are a little busy because you don't have time to really be investigating every little nuance in the card when you're reading. Here we have the devil, which is temptation, because in a pagan deck you don't have a devil. So the devil is seen here as the fox, a medieval symbol for the devil. And the young couple, let's see, in the female's right hand she holds a king cup that symbolizes her yearning for riches. The young man has a bag of coins at his feet, down here. The snake represents temptation, mystery, and destruction. Pleasure and pain is represented by the dog rose. By the fox, the maidenhair fern urges discretion, and the burdock says, "Touch me not." I don't see the maidenhair fern. The cracked stone stands for annihilation, and infirmity, and lightning in the background. Flashes a danger warning. So the message of this card is there's danger everywhere, but the young couple are oblivious, fooled by the devil in disguise. Here we have the Tower, made to resemble a person rather than a house, and it's symbolizing the fact that the tower can be the human body or the human person. So the tower is being destroyed by fire and a lack of foundation. The lightning flash is the moment of crisis that brings about the shattering of rigidity. The bridge stands for a change of state. The eroding river represents irreversible passage of time. The toad is a symbol of negative forces. The toad also can be represent the seed of new progress. And then they have a Shakespeare quote, which like the toad, ugly and venomous, wears yet a precious jewel in its head. The unending shower is a divine nudge, so to speak, and it must be heeded. So that is the Tower in this deck. This is a really beautiful star card. I really like that star card. So she's pouring ambrosia both onto the land, which represents the conscious awareness, and also into the estuary flowing into the sea, or the intuitive unconscious. The iris is a symbol of hope and power, and this is to represent the dog star Sirius. I love that there's a sextant in here and an observatory. They don't really discuss that in the book at all, but I mean, those are pretty obvious symbols of stars. This is how the ancients used to navigate by the stars, and of course today we observe the stars. So really pretty star card. I really like that one. Instead of the moon, we have illusion. And I'm not too fond of this moon card, but that's just me. Represented in the sky is the Egyptian sky goddess Nut from 100 BC. Her face expresses malevolence. There's a crayfish, a symbol of early conscious growth in the foreground, and the reflection of Nut has the triple goddess symbol here, and she's shedding a tear. We have, of course, a dog howling at the moon. We have honeysuckle portraying inconstancy, grows at the side here. Bramble is signifying envy and remorse. Willow trees symbolize those that are forsaken. Poplar trees, let's see, poplar trees are on the horizon. Kind of hard to see. Oh, here they are. Here are the poplar trees, and the poplar is considered the tree of life. Next we have the sun, and although they don't call this moon card, they call it illusion rather than the moon. So if they were going to be consistent, they ought to call this something different from the sun, but they still label this card as the sun. Anyway, we have Stonehenge in the sun card. We've got signs of the zodiac, the rays of the sun, the fire symbol on the forehead of the sun face. We've got a phoenix rising here. And instead of judgment, pardon me, instead of judgment, we have karma. Another very busy card. We've got an embryo in the womb, a snowdrop symbolizing hope. This is a warrior who has been killed and going into the next realm through the sort of a tunnel. And these are the spirits arising through the various planes here into the heavens, with the god and goddess at the very top there. The Summerland, I guess, is the ultimate destination here. And then we have the world. Encircling her head are 12 stars. This is considered to be the goddess. The goddess is giving life to the universe with the stars emerging from her breasts. She has a crescent moon on her brow. Around her neck is the necklace of rebirth. So the various degrees of the craft can be seen at each side and above the oval. On the left, a downward pointing triangle with a dot in the center. On the right, a reversed pentagram. Above, a crowned pentagram, crowned with an upward pointing pentagram. The elements are represented by a pine cone tipped rod, the Thyrsus, thyrsus, that's a term I've never heard. The thyrsus, which is surrounded by fire. The top right hand image is a crowned sword. A crowned sword set within a cloud represents air. At the lower right, a cauldron adorned with 3 crescent moons, representing the element of water. And at the lower left is an altar with a small animal horn at each corner and a pentacle. It stands on grassland and represents earth. So we'll go through each individual minor card a little more quickly, just so you can see them. But they're very, very true to Rider-Waite. Here we have the Ace of Rods, 2 of Rods, and the people have sort of medieval clothing on. 3 of Rods. I love this 4 of Rods. The rods in this deck I really do like. I love this collie here and the child. This is a very nice 4 of Rods, which would traditionally, rods would be wands in other decks. 5 of Rods. I love this 6 of Rods as well. Very nice depiction of victory, acclaim, triumph. Very nice. I love the birch trees there too, birch rods. 7 of Rods. I really like this guy too. What better way to stand your ground than to be a Viking? And I love this 8 of Rods. The witch's broomsticks flying through the air. And also the addition of some birds. 9 of Rods. The 10 of Rods. Now for the court cards, we have Page and Knight, rather than, we don't have any Princess, which I think would have balanced these cards out a little more nicely. I really like the queens in this deck, and she does a really beautiful job illustrating the women, but the men are rather, I don't know what word I'm searching for. The men and boys in this deck are not aesthetically pleasing to me, but possibly to you they would be. Here is the Page of Rods, Knight of Rods, a very beautiful Queen of Rods. I love her red hair. And the King of Rods. Moving on to the cups or cauldrons, the Ace of Cauldrons. And being that it's a Wiccan deck, they've renamed the cups to cauldrons. 2 of Cauldrons, 3 of Cauldrons. Gosh, her face is really not pleasing at all there. 4 of Cauldrons, 5 of Cauldrons. Sort of cute, a little mischievous guy there. He's like, come on, Dad, play with me. Things are better than they seem. 6 of Cauldrons, 7. I really like this 7 of Cauldrons too. That's really nice. 8 of Cauldrons, 9 of Cauldrons. This looks just like the guy in the Rider-Waite 9 of Cups to me. The guy in the hotel with the drinks all around. And the 10 of Cauldrons. Very cute. Page of Cauldrons, Knight of Cauldrons. I would really love to know, possibly it's in my book, I want to know what, let's see, what herb or what flower that is. Knight of Cauldrons. Oh, it's Sweet William, an expression of one who is gallant, a diplomat, and a person possessed of great dexterity. Well, there you have it. There is a little more information in the big book on these. I don't believe it's in the little white book. Queen of Cauldrons. There she has a peach. Isn't she a beautiful queen? Love her. King of Cauldrons. Got the iris behind him, and Ace of Swords with some oak leaves. Two of Swords. Three of Swords. Four of Swords. Oop, what happened to our five? The Five of Swords. Six of Swords. I really love this Lady of the Lake type of a image there. Seven of Swords. The Eight of Swords. Nine of Swords. And 10 of Swords. The Page. It's holding mushrooms. Knight with oak leaves again. I think oak leaves, I would assume, mean knowledge, as these swords are the air suit and associated with mental knowledge. Queen of Swords. And the King of Swords. I would love to go through every card and give you the symbol of the flowers included in them, but we just don't have enough time. Here is the Ace of Pentacles on that table that we saw in the World card. Rabbits are often associated with the Pentacle suit. Two of Pentacles. Three. The Four. Misfortune with the Five. Bounty and sharing. Seven of Pentacles, waiting to see if that harvest is going to work out like you'd hoped. Eight of Pentacles. Like that. That's kind of pretty. He's making them from wheat. Nine of Pentacles. Such a pretty lady. And the 10 of Pentacles. Page of Pentacles. Oh, look, he's got fuchsias. Knight of Pentacles with daffodils behind. Queen of Pentacles. I think that's honeysuckle. I'm not positive. And last but not least, we have the King of Pentacles. Looks like he's got some foxglove there. Also included in this deck are a listing of a few other cards available from A.G. Mueller. Guarantee. Well, that's nice. I don't think I've ever gotten a deck with a guarantee before. And this image on the back of the cards is really very pretty. Looks like it might be honeysuckle again. So I hope you enjoyed this run through. I tried to make it concise, but yet filled with a little more information than you might get in just a walkthrough. If you have any questions on individual symbols in the Minor Arcana, because I didn't have time to cover those, so if there's any kind of herb or flower that you'd like to know what it is and what it symbolizes, just let me know in the comments and I'll be happy to answer you. Thanks. Don't forget to like and subscribe.